All right. Call the Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors work session in order, or convening rather. All right, Ms. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Mr. Cheshire?
Here.
Mr. Dalton? Mr. Dudley?
Present.
Mr. Scares? Mr. Warren?
Here.
Mr. Barksdale?
Here.
Mr. Ingram?
Here. Are there any items to be added to the agenda? Okay, having read that. For the citizens' convenience, all work session and committee meetings are now being recorded and can be viewed on the same YouTube network as the Board of Supervisors business meetings. Please remember that the board's work session is designed for the internal board and county staff communication, discussion, and work. It is not a question and answer session with the audience. Accordingly, during the work session, no questions or comments from the audience will be entertained. Respectfully, any outburst or disorderly conduct from the audience will not be tolerated and may result in the offending person's removal from the work session. As a reminder, all county citizens and other appropriate parties are designated by the board's bylaws are permitted to make comments under the hearing of the citizens section of tonight's business meeting. Having said that, we have a presentation from Mr. Arnold and River Street, I do believe. And I did want to welcome you and anybody watching by television. Thank you, Mr. Arnold.
Mr. Chairman, we're going to get an approval of the
Approval of
agenda
agenda.
real quick, if you
Oh,
don't
yes,
mind.
okay. Having said that, do I have a motion for the approval of the agenda? Mr. Warren, thank you, sir. What about a second?
Second.
Any discussion on that?
I didn't make a motion.
I saw your hand go up.
No,
Okay,
I didn't make a motion. But I mean, I will. But
please.
So move.
And
I'll second.
Tim second. Any discussion about that? Okay, all in favor? Guess, do we vote on? Okay.
Punch it in.
No, it's, my screen won't open that up.
Roll call.
Okay, and you can go ahead with the presentation.
Okay, I think that was unanimous, so.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Arnold, sorry about that, sir. Go right ahead.
No problem. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Today I wanted to present to you River Street Networks and specifically Rob Taylor, who works out of their Danville office. He is going to provide an update on the status of the 2022 VOTI grant that was recently awarded last month, as well as cover the highlights of the broadband expansion plan. So after his presentation, he's going to be available for any questions that you all might have. And I also understand that he has passed out hard copies of the broadband expansion plan that each one should be available at your seat. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn things over to Mr. Taylor.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Taylor.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me today. Again, Rob Taylor with River Street Networks. I am out of the Danville office. The first part I want to go over is who we are. River Street Networks is a member-owned cooperative at its base. Its parent company is Wilkes Telephone Membership Cooperative or Corporation down in Wilkes County, North Carolina. We've been running a fiber-to-the-home network down in Wilkes County, North Carolina for several years now. We have over 30,000 accounts on that network. As you can see in front of you, the assets of the company. Recently, River Street expanded, or Wilkes expanded by setting up a for-profit entity called River Street Networks. But at its heart, it still goes by the cooperative structure and everything. We're trying to expand broadband services to unserved and underserved areas, rural communities, like we did in Wilkes County, North Carolina, into areas of Virginia and North Carolina. And what we've done is we've contracted with an engineering firm to help design a broadband expansion plan that I'll go over here in a little bit. There's a few terms that I want to make sure we're all familiar with. So as I mentioned them in my presentation, you guys will understand what I'm talking about. So reverse auction, that's what happened when it came to the Connect America Fund, which is called CAF, or the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund, which is called RDOF. These two auctions were reverse auction. Can you hear me better? Anything?
A bit more. You turn the volume up a little bit.
Can you hear me now? Is that
That's
better?
good. Yes, sir.
Okay. So again, the Connect America Fund and the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund were reverse auctions by the FCC. And basically what they did is they went out there and said, we're offering this much compensation for companies to provide broadband services to these locations in these census blocks. And companies bid on those census blocks, and then they came and said, okay, all those companies who bid on this one, are you willing to take X amount of dollars less? And those companies kept bidding until they hit the clearing round where they had the funding in place to secure the funds for all those blocks that were being bid on. And at that time, whoever was left in the auction either won those blocks, or if there was a tie, they actually did a flip of the coin to decide who got the blocks. So if you look at this, Connect America Fund impacted Pittsylvania County because there were blocks in your county that received funding that we were able to win in the auction. Rural Digital Opportunity Fund, there was also funds in the county that we received in the auction there. Fiber to the home, FTTH, that's fiber to the home, from the home all the way back to us. That's not fiber to the curb or fiber to the neighborhood. That's fiber actually to the premise, okay? Broadband, currently broadband is internet services defined as 25 megs down, 3 megs up. We know that the federal government and other groups are moving towards 100 megs down and 25 megs up. We think at some time in the near future it will be 100/100 would be the definition of broadband. For an example of what do you do with 25 megs down, you could stream one 4K channel with 25 megs down. So if you're going to do a 4K stream, you'll use up all the internet in your house streaming one channel of 4K content. So underserved areas were defined as any locations less than 25 and 3. And that's in these auctions, as well as in the VATI program, which I'll touch on briefly. The census block group is the minimum geographical location that was put in the auction, and then there were census blocks inside the group that you were auctioning or you were bidding on. And then a location is defined as a home or a business, or in some parts, just a lot or a parcel that might have been on the 911 or in the census data, okay? So what we've run into is sometimes they'll tell us that there's X number of homes, but when we talk to the county's like, we don't have that many addresses, or we don't have that many locations in that area. Well, what it was is when they did the 2011 census, there was an address in there that came up in that census, and that's why it became a location, okay? So what we did is River Street commissioned a broadband expansion plan, and in the plan, which I put on everybody's desk or in front of you today, we discuss what's going on in the county. We looked at the broadband providers that are currently in the county. We looked at the funding mechanisms through the RDOF program, and we kind of laid out a format of what it would look like if you were to do a greenfield build, which is from every location in the county, what the cost would look like, what the timeline would look at like, what the parts would be. Now, we don't have the time today for me to go in detail on all that, but what I want to do is give you an overview of it so that you can review it, and then if any time you want, just let Mr. Arnold know, and I'll be more than happy to come back and we'll do a deep dive on the broadband expansion plan. So, first few pages is just the index to give you a layout of the book. The next item that should show interest to you is that these are the counties, or these are the internet service providers in this county that are reporting to the FCC in what we call the FCC Form 477, that they're providing at least 25 and 3 service to so many blocks in your county. Now here's where the problem is. If we are all one census block, and Mr. Arnold can get internet service, he can get 25 and 3. The federal government sees us all as being served. And therefore, every other location in this block cannot get funding to get broadband because one person in the block is able to get service. All right? And you say, well, why is that? Well, that might be that's the end of the cable run from the copper plant or the end of the cable run from the coax plant. And he just happens to be in a position where he can get the service. And beyond that, people can't get 25 and 3. Maybe they're able to get 3 and 3, or maybe they're able to get 10 and 1, and so on and so forth. Or they might not get anything, okay? Anyway, in the plan, it shows you the listing of who is saying they're providing service. Now, River Street is providing services currently, and that's through our acquisition of the old People's Mutual Telephone Service out of Gretna, as well as our purchase of Gamewood Technology Group, where we have fiber customers over the in-Danville fiber network, as well as our purchase of SCS, where SCS has some wireless services in the county, okay? So if you look at the overall scope of the project, it tells you we did it two ways. We went in there, we said, look, we're mainly looking at rural. And the reason why we're looking at rural is because most of your incumbents are already providing services to high density areas. And so any location there's more of 1,000 residents, we took those out and we put them separate. You still get the numbers, you still get an idea what the cost would be if you wanted to overbuild those locations, but we took those out because we know that a majority of the rural residents are where the service is most needed. So if you take a look at it, you would look at building out over 2,300 miles of fiber in the county to pass all the residents in the non-high density areas. The high density areas we identified were Gretna, Chatham, and Hurt. So if you remove those 3 towns out, all the other locations, you would build out about 2,300 miles of fiber, okay? You are looking at passing about 29,699 locations in doing that. And we did that by breaking it into 11 zones, and there are maps inside the book as well as over here that kind of show you those zones. So with the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund, there was over $20.4 billion. Of that, the first release was supposed to be $16 billion, but because there were so many people bidding on it, and because there were large players bidding on it, such as SpaceX, those dollars went down very quickly, and instead of releasing $16 billion, the federal government only released 9.2. This is one of the reasons why Virginia had issues with the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund, and they said, look, there wasn't enough funding given out to these companies to provide fiber services, which is what we really would like to get into these rural communities. Therefore, we're willing you to couple those RDOF dollars with VATI dollars to build out these areas. And so that is what we did with the VATI application. So here's an idea of, if you look at the county, this shows you the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund census block groups that were awarded, or census blocks that were awarded to us as well as Mecklenburg Electric. Mecklenburg got 1 block. It has 2 locations. It's just to the east or southeast of Chatham, or Gretna there. The only thing I can think of is that when we were bidding, they dropped out sooner than we dropped out, and then they went down to the next round to get that one, and by that time, they won that one. But we won all, or we received all the other blocks in the county. To include, we had already bid on all the CAF blocks, and we received all the CAF blocks in the county. So in there is a timeline. We have a 60-month build. Now this 60-month build is based off the whole county, not off the VATI. The VATI application is 3 years. This is based off a 5-year build, but that's if you were to build the whole county. Gives you an idea, again, if you were to take a look at building out the whole county to include the towns of Chatham, Gretna, and Hurt, you're looking at a $148 million project. If you take the 3 towns out, you're looking at about a $137 million project, okay? Again, details are in the book, just giving you an overview, but the information is in there. Here's just a quick look at one of the maps. There's several maps in there, as well as the 2x3 maps over here. I've also provided to Mr. Arnold an electronic version of everything that is in the book so that you can print these out as much as you want. There's also GIS data, so you can take that GIS information and upload it into your GIS system, as well as KMZ files and so on and so forth. But this just gives you an idea. If you were to just build the backbone in the county, it would cost somewhere in the neighborhood of about $13 million. It would pass 2,300 homes when you installed the 322 so miles of fiber that you would need to. Now, what we did is we said, if you got a 30% take rate, this is what the cost would be to reach out to those 30%. Or if you got a 100% take rate, this is what the cost would be to reach out to 100%. And when we say take rate, we're talking the actual fiber from the fiber route to the home or the business, okay? Now, in River Street's model, we cover those costs. That's our last mile portion of the build, and we cover those. Here's what it looks like if you were to build the backbone to the fiber. So if you came off that backbone and build out to the houses, you can see that that's $119 million, or I'm sorry, that's another $60 million. And that is building about 1,981 miles of fiber to pass 27,000 homes. So what I want to do right now is switch over to the VATI application. So on the VATI application, DHCD said, we want you guys to look at fiber builds, we want you guys to look at regional applications, and we want you to look at doing a universal coverage of the areas that are in the application. So we reached out to West Piedmont PDC, which is Pittsylvania County's part of the West Piedmont PDC, and we asked them if they would be willing to partner with us on a couple of regional applications. And the one application that we have Pittsylvania County in is, we call it the East application. That application has 6 counties, going all the way out to Amelia County, back to Pittsylvania County. We have Bedford, Campbell, Charlotte, and Nottoway as well. It has 2 VACO regions. It has 2 Go Virginia regions. And it has 2 congressional regions, unless that changed over the last reworking of the areas, the districts. And then in total, it has 3 PDCs in there, but West Piedmont is the one that we're working with as a partner on this, okay? So they're the applicant. Quick, helpful terms, Virginia DHCD, that's the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development. They're the ones that oversee the VATI program, and VATI stands for Virginia Telecommunications Initiative. And then PDC is the planning district, which I'm sure you all are familiar with. So here's what the application, here's the counties that we're looking at in the application. And here's what the build out looks like when we look at the census blocks as far as RDOF locations, SpaceX locations, and any unfunded locations. The reason why we have SpaceX locations is because SpaceX was the largest receiver of RDOF funding in the state of Virginia. But the state did not recognize them as a broadband service provider because they were not a fixed terrestrial solution, and their technology hadn't been proven yet, and it still hasn't been proven yet. So anyway, looking at this application, there's a total of 24,641 locations that we would be passing, and a majority, 11,985 of those, are in Pittsylvania County, okay? If you look at the breakdown, there's 14,580 of those locations are RSN RDOF, 651 are SpaceX, and there's 9,410 locations that were identified by the individual counties that were unserved. And I think in Pittsylvania County, there was about 3,616 locations that you guys helped us to identify as being unserved, or those locations that weren't funded but still had less than 25 and 3. In addition to that, we plan on building out some CAF2 locations. There's 5,764. We'll do that in conjunction. And I want to say almost half of those are also in Pittsylvania County as well. This doesn't show up very good on those maps, but over here it does. This kind of gives you a layout of what the fiber diagram looks like in each of the counties. Again, this is Dave, or Mr. Arnold has access to this. He helped us with the GIS system to kind of get this information. So this actually, I want to say, is also in your GIS system already as far as the wiring diagram for Pittsylvania County. So here's what it looks like, the East application. It's a $157 million project. From RSN, we're bringing in about $24,642 to cover all the connection costs if we get at least a 40% penetration. If we get above a 40% penetration, we'll cover those additional costs as well. In addition to that, we have the RDOF funding. The RDOF for this is going to come in 2 tranches. It's going to be about $17 million, but we'll only get about $5.5 million during the 3-year build. The other, we're going to have to go out and get a loan, and that's that $12.8 million. So that $12.8 million, we're going to have to go out, borrow that in advance, use that during this, and then use the RDOF funds to pay down that loan when it comes time to, okay? In addition to that, we were able to secure $87 million in VATI funding. In the counties, we're bringing in $27.9 million in matching funding. Now, here's what the map looks like for Pittsylvania County itself. In total, it's 14,397 locations. You can see the RDOF locations, the unfunded locations, and then the CAF locations that make up those. For the 2 projects that we have, again, we're building out the CAF simultaneous with the RDOF and VATI. So on the CAF, that, excuse me, that funding is coming in from the federal government to us, and we're bringing in the additional funding needed to do that $10.1 million project in conjunction with what we're doing with the VATI and RDOF. Here's the breakdown on the Pittsylvania County portion. You're looking at about $2.3 million in RDOF funding that's going to come in years 1 through 3, and then we'll get about $5.3 million in a loan to cover the RDOF years 4 through 10. In addition to that, we have a MOU already in place with the county and the schools to cover $16.5 million out of your ARPA funds to help cover a match there. We've taken a portion of that $87 million, it's $39.5 million to put towards the VATI grant towards Pittsylvania County's portion of the build. And then we're bringing in an additional $11.9 million of our own funds to build out to these locations. In total, of that $157 million project, Pittsylvania County's almost half at $75 million. Of course, you guys also have almost half the number of locations, and it is the largest portion of our build. And it is the location that we would start the build out first because we already have network inside of Gretna. And that's one reason why we're already working with the county to find what we call lay yards to bring in the equipment we need to get started as soon as we get the release from Virginia DHCD. That's my presentation. And I know it was a lot of information, but I only had 30 minutes.
Well, thanks, Mr. Taylor. It's obvious that we've got some homework to do here. Questions from our colleagues? Mr.
As
Chester.
far as material, I know that's going to be an issue, and labor. How's that going to affect into your plans?
So it is an issue. So one of the things that we've done, as soon as we were given the award, or got the announcement of the award, we sent in a request, we being the PDC and ourselves, sent in a request to DHCD to get what they call permission to proceed, right? And with that permission, you're able to do engineering, easements, right-of-ways, and start your equipment ordering. So we've already started that, even though we don't have the contract yet from DHCD signed. So that contract negotiation, it actually starts tomorrow. And in the past, where I've worked on other contracts similar to this, like in King and Queen County, that takes anywhere from 3 to 6 months before that contract's finalized. During that time, we hope to have all the equipment on order, all the contracts laid up. One of the good things is one of the contractors we've used in the past for this type of work is Rayco. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but they're out of Gretna, you know. Matter of fact, they were actually working on our King and Queen project for a while as well, and then they moved on to another. But so that's one of the opportunities that we have, is to be able to use, hopefully, Rayco on something like this. Perhaps we've already talked about some possible lay yards in the county to pre-position all that equipment. However, there is a large lead time on most materials nowadays. And so our deal was to try to get in front of that and get the permission to order the equipment as soon as possible, which we have secured, that permission. We're still trying to figure out exactly what the lead time is going to be. But that is an issue that we have is, you know, and everybody's got it, is getting materials and getting the labor needed.
So any, like, you know, your fiber runs, which I know is going to be a huge part of that run. What kind of lead times are we looking there? Or is it going to be something that we can get pretty quick? Or
No. So before, fiber lead times were probably less than 2 months. And now fiber lead times are almost 10 to 12 months. So what we have done, if you take a look at the broadband expansion plan that we did, we have a multitude of fiber sizes. But what we've done is said, look, instead of using a multitude of fiber sizes, we're going to have to use the most common size. And instead of getting it custom built, you know, if we need 5 miles for this run, we'll get a 5-mile reel. We're going to get the maximum reel length. So instead of ordering it, you know, to spec and everything else, we're trying to get it as the mass-produced reels as much as possible, if that makes sense.
Like a generic?
More of a generic saying, hey, what's the longest run we can get of 144 strand fiber versus getting, you know, several miles in different reels of 144 strand this time and 72 strand this time and you know, so on and so forth. Yeah. So we can't custom order the car like we used to. We have to try to get one that's, you know, pretty much the common denominator there.
Understood.
Anyone else? Mr. Warren.
Following up Mr. Cheshire, if the lead times are moving to that degree, then how is that, in the company's mind, going to impact meeting the 36-month deadline?
Yeah, it definitely causes concern, but again, it's the same throughout the whole industry. I mean, if I order one of the things, first of all, is that we already had an agreement in place because of the size of our company. We already had an agreement in place with one of the largest fiber manufacturers in the U.S., so that we're on the list of companies that can even order it. All right. If you're a smaller player, you can't even order it right now. But it is a concern. But one of the things that you have to keep in mind is even though we have this large lead time, some of that time is already being eaten up by the fact that we have to negotiate the contract. So while that's going on, there's other things that we have to do before we can even put the first fiber in the ground. I mean, that includes what we call, getting the easements, getting the right-of-ways, doing the staking. You'll see guys going out putting stakes in the ground. That's where they get the measurements to know exactly where the build's going to be. And they get the permissions from VDOT that yes, all right, you can go along the stake. We've got to get the locating done. So the stuff has got to be located. Then you got to start doing either your boring or your trenching and everything. So there's a whole bunch of work that has to go into it before you even start putting the first fiber in the ground.
Well, my concern is with our citizens. You know, they finally hear they're going to have access to broadband in 36 months. And, you know, my fear is that line is going to move. I mean, we can't help a pandemic, but because of the pandemic, which means it's also going to move the revenue sharing line, which is going to impact our ability to reach those underserved.
Right.
That we, you know, drastically want to reach also for the citizens. So, you know, it's a compounding effect, and, you know, I think I'd like to know a little more about, a little better detail and clarity on, you know, what the company thinks those timelines are. And I know they don't have a crystal ball and be able to predict it. Of course, you gave us a book to look through. Is there any projections in the book that reflects any information on anticipated or possible revenue sharing, so this board can start thinking, you know, 5 years down the road, 4 years down the road, you know, what we're going to do to reach those underserved, not just the unserved?
So in the book itself, keep in mind the broadband expansion plan was done in a separate vault from this, right? Now, we've also submitted a response to the RFI, and in the RFI, it does talk about what the revenue share would look like, and that is based off of a model of reaching a certain number of penetration. I think it's 30% is when it starts kicking off. And we're in the process right now. As a matter of fact, I just reviewed the agreement that the attorney sent over to us that we can be forwarding over to Mr. Hunt here in a little bit for your review, as an agreement, and it addresses the revenue share as well. Some of the things that, it's hard to anticipate is, right now we know what the lead times are, but we don't know when the next wave's going to be, and we don't know when the next issue is going to hit the coast of California or the East Coast, where they can't offload the boats to get them out here to get the raw materials. I mean, fortunately, most of our stuff, if not all of it, is U.S. made, but some of the times you have to wait on the raw materials to even get in country first. So, I wish I could give you a better understanding, but our plan is to build it as fast as we can, because just like you, we have money invested in it, and we can't start getting return on that investment until we start getting customers on the service.
Are you seeing any change on the lead time based on the federal government now pushing so hard?
We're not. We're only seeing it go further out. If we had this discussion 2 or 3 months ago, I would tell you at that time it was probably about a 6-month lead time. Now, we are being told that they think it's at the peak and that they hope for it to start coming down. Part of the issue that they're having is finding workers to man the machines in the plants to produce the materials.
I have another question.
Yes, sir.
With that being said, as far as the permits and everything, how is that being expedited, or is there a push to have all these completed?
So fortunately, one of the things, because we already knew that Pittsylvania County was important to us because of our presence already here in the county, with People's Mutual Telephone and Gateway Technology Group and so on and so forth. When we started doing the build in King and Queen County a year and a half, 2 years ago, part of the issue that we ran into there was there had to be some environmentals done and some other things done. While we were doing those, I want to say we were also doing the ones for Pittsylvania County. So some of the studies that we did in King and Queen, we went on and did that as well. During that time, we also got a good relationship going on with VDOT that we hope to mimic here as well with that. Because a lot of our right-of-ways, or a lot of our easements are along the VDOT right-of-way. That's where we prefer to put the fiber, is in that location. Now, at the same time, we still have to go through and do what they call a desktop study to figure out where are some of these roads that might be private roads that we need to get permissions and start getting those worked out. So,
Anyone else? Hey, to follow up on what Mr. Warren was saying, I likewise have been sort of bombarded with the question of when and why haven't we done something before now. And so you bear with me, but on this FCC 477 filing, why are you still carrying SCS? Because when I first came on this board, I heard a presentation that in my opinion was very misleading, and I think it threw us behind schedule. And we heard every excuse under the sun as to why nothing had been done. And then here comes River Street. And the standard that I think we're going to hold you guys to is not only reasonable, but it's relatively high. And one of the follow-up questions with that is, you're also committing to approximately 5 other counties. So who comes first?
well, like I said, Pittsylvania County right now, so we're looking at, it's a multi-phase approach. So we're looking at Pittsylvania County and Charlotte County being where we start kicking off the construction first. But all the counties will be being worked on in the background simultaneously.
And how do you coexist with other providers like Chatham or Comcast? Where I live, you come a certain ways and you have Comcast, and you might go across the street and you don't have it. You may have Chatham. How do you coexist with those existing companies?
Well, we try to work with those existing companies wherever possible and make sure we're not duplicating the builds. Now, on the federal funding, though, and on the state funding, especially in the state funding, we had to give them address locations. So we are going to be required to pass by that location if it's served or not served. So if it's a location that already has service, then they'll have the ability to have, an option. But part of the deal was going through there and making sure we weren't overbuilding locations. And that's one reason why we did the broadband expansion plan. We took out the high density areas, the towns, because we knew that if we went to build into those areas, those would be probably overbuild by at least one or two other providers.
Did you say overbuilt?
Overbuilt, yes, sir.
Okay. All right, so if you take somebody in the further southwest corner of the county that cannot get Chatmoss, chances are they're not going to get River Street either because of where they lived. Is that a fair statement?
No, sir. I want to say if you take a look, and I don't know if I've got this.
A comment I made when I think Mr. Crane was here is like you put internet on top of internet, and that was problematic to me if you already had existing internet.
Yes, sir. I mean, and again, our plan isn't to overbuild other providers. Our plan is to go out to the unserved and underserved areas, which are mainly the rural parts of the county. So if you take a look here, you can see the green line is the fiber routes that we're looking at building, and then the blocks are the locations that should be getting service that the green lines are feeding into.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Anyone else? All right. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. I'm sure we'll be in touch with you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
All right. Staff committee and/or constitutional officer reports. Do you have anybody up?
No, sir.
Nobody. Okay. Well, I think that has brought us up to closed session. Mr. Hunt, would you read us into closed session then?
Certainly. Today we have 4 items to discuss in closed session, 3 of them being under the legal heading and 1 being under the personnel hearing. The first 3 under legal are legal authority, Virginia Code Section 2.23711A8. First one is subject matter project Aqua letter of intent. Purpose is legal review / consultation regarding the same. Second legal item, same legal authority, subject matter reassessment, next steps. Purpose, legal review, consultation regarding the same. The third legal item, same legal authority, subject matter former county administrator severance. Purpose, legal review, consultation regarding the same. And then our single personnel one for the evening is legal authority, Virginia Code Section 2.23711A1, subject matter interim county administrator. Purpose, discussion of potential hire of the same and related services. So those are what we're going into. We'll need a motion, a second, any discussion, and a vote to go into closed session, please.
All right. Have a motion.
I make Nick motion.
All right. Thank you, sir. Just look at the move again. See it right there. You hit that little green button. There you go. All right. I'm sorry. Tim, you, all right, you were the mover. Mr. Barksdale second. Gentlemen, cast your vote. All right. That's adopted 6-6. We'll go into closed session.
return to open session. Missing Mr. Chesh. Although his sign is misspelled there.
So, I know I've got them when we had just agenda.
Just watch it.
Okay.
Hey, Kim. We're missing, Mr. Dudley went home ill, but we're missing Mr. Cheshire. He went that way. Can you try to find him, Scott, please? Well, I'll read this and hopefully it'll be here in time. We return to open session at 6:49 PM. We will now certify closed session. So I'll read a paragraph and then we'll take a vote. Be it resolved that the Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors business meeting on January 18th, 2022, the board hereby certifies by recorded vote to the best of each board member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act and identified in the motion authorizing the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed meeting. If any board member believes that there was a departure from the requirements of the act, he shall so state prior to the vote, indicating the substance of the departure. The statement shall be recorded in the board's minutes. So we just do roll call now?
Yep.
So, Mr. Dalton?
Here.
Okay, so that's a yes.
Yes, I'm
Mr. Dudley is absent, he went home ill. Mr. Scarce was in attendance, so we don't need your vote. So we have Mr. Warren,
Yes.
Mr. Barksdale,
Yes.
Mr. Ingram.
Yes.
So since we have a majority, and I think that's sufficient, and we'll clean it up when Mr. Cheshire comes here for the minutes, okay?
Okay.
So that concludes closed session and is hereby certified, Mr. Ingram. If there's no more matters, you can adjourn the work session.
Okay, so